I truly believe like the moment that you step into your spiritual journey is the moment you finally have a moment of surrender. I remember sitting there driving my car and I was about to turn left. I remember the exact street and I was just crying, like sobbing. And I was like, God, if you're out there, like, I don't know who you are. If you're Buddha, if you're Jesus, like to call you God, I don't know who you are, but I know that there's something out there. I know that there's a higher power. Even though you could have angels, spirit guides, whether you believe in God, Jesus, anyone, you are here on your own free will. Meaning, even though they're there and they could be there to support you and guide you and help you, you have to ask for it. Hello, you guys. Welcome to this week's episode of the Expand and Evolve podcast. This week, I wanted to speak about my spiritual journey. This is something that I continue to get messages on. Every time I put a question box, people are like, I want to know about your spiritual journey. And so I felt like I would take it all the way back. I feel like I'm not centered. I felt like I would take it all the way back to just how my journey started and what I can remember when it comes to my connection to spirituality, to God, to all the things. And what I first wanted to say was, spirituality to me and spirituality to you could mean different things. Spirituality could be that you see it as separate than religion or God, that you think spirituality is woo-woo, that you believe like religion and God is the answer, whatever your thing is, right? To me though, spirituality is all of that. It's like, to me, it's the connection you have to God, to source, to yourself. That is spirituality. Spirituality is your journey. It's your journey here on earth. It's every experience that you have. That is spirituality. And when you can tap into yourself and the connection you have to you, which is also the connection to God and source and infinite possibilities and all of the things, whatever you want to call it, the universe, that is spirituality. And so I wrote this down and then I'm going to go through my journey, but I basically wrote, spirituality is your connection to yourself, to God, to the divine, and to trusting and surrendering to a higher power, and knowing you're always being guided for your highest self and your highest good. Deciding I don't even know what I wrote. I don't know what that says. And so realizing that you are the creator and stepping out of victim consciousness. So I truly believe like the moment that you step into your spiritual journey is the moment you finally have a moment of surrender, where life feels, this was at least true for me. Life got so challenging. I was in such a place of like severe heartbreak that I had no choice but to like fall to my knees and ask for support, ask for guidance, I was like, I don't know who you are, like God, source, universe, Buddha, Jesus, like, I don't know who you are, but like, I know there's something else out there and like, I'm ready and I need your support now. And it was me calling it in, because something that you have to realize and learn is like, in these realms, right, of like the physical, the non-physical, you probably hear people talk about like the 3D, the 5D, different dimensions and different realms. We're here with free will, meaning that even though you could have angels, spirit guides, whether you believe in God, Jesus, anyone, you are here on your own free will. Meaning, even though they're there and they could be there to support you and guide you and help you, you have to ask for it. And not necessarily like where they're never going to come in and lean in and protect you or guide you, but to the point where if you don't want to choose God, if you don't want to choose that path, that is a choice that you get to make and they can't interfere. The same way, let's say you had a spirit in your room and you could feel the presence of somebody, they have to listen. If you tell them to get out, they have to listen. They're not allowed to terrorize you if you are commanding them to get out, because you're the one in the power. Anyways, so the point of that is that you have to understand that you are the one creating it all. And Danny Morel is a really great resource if you want to learn more about like how you are the creator of every single circumstance in your life. Kabbalah is another great resource that talks a lot about this stuff too. If you're looking for more of like a structured resource to lean into and go to, I'm going to talk about my personal journey and like what I have been through and how it's led me to where I feel I am now. But in regards to the victim versus creator, it's understanding that there's a lot of people who feel like this is happening to me and I don't understand, and they feel hopeless and powerless. But it's understanding that even in the hardship, it's actually happening for you and it's trying to wake something up. It's trying to get you on your spiritual journey. It's trying to bring you to your spiritual path. Every time I start a podcast like this, there's always the birds. Like they're literally, I wish I could just show you guys quickly. They're literally doing circles right in front of me. And I'm trying to figure out if they're seagulls or eagles. I'm not sure, but they're really big. Anyways, oh, boom, eagle flies right past as I say that. Anyways, so in case you guys need spirit guides and don't believe that animals and trees and everything is connected and everything is signs, they are. And I think that may feel woo-woo for you, but when you start to understand and see this as like one living being organism that is all created by God's source, consciousness, all of it, we are all connected. And it's so selfish and naive to believe that we somehow have a higher superiority as a human than the eagle or the hummingbird or the insect. It's like that's where the principles in Buddhism of seeing it all as equal, I believe that's where it comes from. They talk about that where like everything, you never want to kill anything because everything is you. And so it's starting to see that like everything is a reflection of you and is part of you. So if you harm the tree or you harm the earth in any way, or you harm an animal, like that's also you. Like we are all connected at a soul level consciousness. That goes a lot deeper. Anyways, okay, let's bring it back to the victim. Anyways, I do want to say that though, because I read a book called Signs and like I really started on my spiritual journey having signs. And when you start to pay attention to this stuff, life becomes so beautiful. You see God in moments, if you want to call it that, universe, whatever you want to say, communicating with you at all times. It's not a human being that needs to communicate with you. This earth is a living, breathing organism. It's your mother. Like if you see it like that, like you can call it Sky Daddy, who's up in the sky, and then Mother Earth. And the mother is always communicating with you, holding you, connecting with you and supporting you. And then Sky Daddy, or like God in the sky, you can see it as like the masculine and the feminine. He's always there supporting you also as like a protector and a guide and all of that. And so it's like you start to see that life is really beautiful. And when you are thinking a thought and then you get confirmation through a license plate, or you get confirmation through, I was talking about something last night and I look to my left and there's a massive hummingbird. That's not coincidence. Like that was there to teach me something and give me a message. And so I go read about it. Do you see how much more beautiful life is when it's like that? Instead of like, I'm just here to exist. I'm working 9 to 5 and I don't know, like there's no meaning. I'm just here to live and die. Like, no, you're here to create impact and change in your life's journey. And that's your spiritual work, is going into your journey and bringing awareness back to your soul. And I read something this morning that had said, like, there's so many people here that are soulless. They're not connected to their soul. It doesn't mean you don't have a soul. They're just living their life so autopilot and so programmed and so disconnected from themselves that they don't even realize that they're a soul having a human experience, and they need to tap back into like, what is that soul saying to them? We're so disconnected. Sometimes we can't even hear what the soul is saying. And it's like getting back to the place where I feel spirituality is you tap back into your soul, you follow its path, you lean into it, even when it's scary, even when it's hard, even when it pushes you out of your comfort zone, and you move forward through that. And through that, you get connected to your higher self, higher consciousness, become who you're meant to be, do this whole earth thing and move through it all. Okay. So when I'm talking about the victim and creator consciousness and energy, it really is coming to understand that like everything happening here is happening for you. Every single thing, even the hard stuff. Your soul chose it. You came here to learn a lesson. Even the most horrific experiences, you guys, if you start to see life this way, that you came here, even the most awful experiences that you've had, you chose it for your own soul's evolution and growth. Maybe in a previous life, you had it really easy. You had the perfect family, perfect life, perfect everything. And you're like, I actually didn't feel like I learned anything. Like going through the hard and the grit and having myself move through that, I feel like I experienced so much more life. And so it's like, you get to choose in those moments. Are you going to stay the victim to your circumstances, or are you going to take control of it and decide that like you're going to be the one to move through it, overcome it, and be empowered because of it? And understanding that like your thoughts are creating your reality. That's spiritual in itself. Like that's how powerful you are, that the way you think is cultivating and creating every single thing that is happening to you. Every single experience that you're having is happening because of your thoughts. So the things that you think, they're projected to you. It's, what is it? Your projection is your perception. So it's like whatever you think here is projected outward, and that perception comes back to you because it's what you already believe. So every single thing you're thinking is creating your reality. That's where it's like, if you believe you have an amazing marriage, you believe you have an amazing marriage. Maybe you have an amazing marriage. If you believe that everyone is out to get you and that life sucks, like, yeah, life's going to suck. Someone's car is going to break down. Your car is going to break down. You're going to miss your work appointment. You're going to, like, this type of stuff is going to happen because of what you think and what you feel. So let's jump into my journey, because I have a really tough time with anyone who stays victim, where it's like, oh, this happened and this happened to me. Nah, nah, nah. I'm empathetic, and it's like, pull your shit together and realize that, like, you're in control. And if shit keeps happening to you, you're creating it. So it's like, take your power back and realize, like, you can choose to have, like, choose a different thought, choose a different pattern whenever and whenever you want to. But it's like taking that power back and realizing that's how powerful you are. Okay, so let's jump into my personal spiritual journey. Okay, so for me, I was introduced to religion. So my family comes from, like, a line of Latter-day Saints on my dad's side. So that's what it's called, right? Mormons. Anyways, that's kind of like the religious line that I came from. And my first experiences that I can remember, I won't even say with God. I didn't have experience with God by going to church, but going to church was, I didn't like the feeling. I remember being a kid there and feeling really out of place, like it didn't make sense. Getting put in a room for, like, Sunday school, I guess you would call it, with other kids. I remember the teacher feeling really mean. It didn't feel warm. It didn't feel loving. It didn't feel welcoming. I remember it actually was, like, one of the most scary experiences for me. Like, it just did not feel good. And then I remember my grandma taking me sometimes, I think because I was open to it. My dad was the one that had it. My mom didn't come from a religious background at all. And I'm pretty sure, like, maybe I wanted to go, maybe I wanted to try it. I don't know. Anyways, I ended up at church. I remember sitting in a service, and I think it was, like, it's called communion, when there's, like, the bread and the wine, and I couldn't, whatever. And it's supposed to represent, like, blood, and I didn't understand. Okay. I was a kid. And I think I remember asking for more bread, and, like, the look that I got, where I'm like, I just wanted to know if I could have more bread. Like, it's good bread. I just, that experience alone, I remember being like, I don't know what this is. This feels off. And then I also feel like I remember, because I went a couple times, asking questions in the Sunday, like a Sunday school thing, and them not being able to answer me. Okay. And this has been a journey of mine my whole life, where even with teachers, I would ask pretty in depth, deep questions that a lot of the time they couldn't answer. Okay. So I've never been someone, if something doesn't make sense to me and feel like truth, I will never just accept it. I'm not going to be like, oh yeah, it makes sense. It's like, no. And I will challenge you, because I'm like, what are you saying? Like, that doesn't make sense and it doesn't feel like truth. And so I remember that as a kid, having those experiences, and basically along the lines of, like, because I said so type of responses. And so for me, I just never felt great about it. Never went back. Church was never my thing. Didn't have anyone teaching me, like, how to pray or how to connect to God and, like, spirituality. Like, I didn't have an upbringing like that. Okay. So I very much came to this on my own journey, which I'm sure was designed exactly that way. Okay. I didn't need a parent to, like, push things down my throat and tell me how to do it. I needed to learn it myself. And I think even the families where they do push this on their kids and, like, force them to understand religion, but they don't feel it here, it doesn't matter. It doesn't give them the God connection. It gives them rules and regulations that is not God. Okay. So anyways, so then as I got older, I ended up, I think I was like 17-ish. I remember driving. I remember the exact place that I was. And I was in so much pain from the relationship that I was in. It was awful. And I remember sitting there driving my car, and I was about to turn left. I remember the exact street. If you guys are from Surrey and Delta, it was Scott Road. I was turning left on 92nd Street. And I was just crying, like sobbing. And I was like, I don't know who you are. Like, God, if you're out there, like, I don't know who you are. If you're Buddha, if you're Jesus, if you're, I don't know who you are. Like, to call you God, I don't know who you are, but I know that there's something out there. I know that there's a higher power. And, like, if you're listening, like, I'm ready to surrender to, like, I need help. Basically, it was me asking for help. And I don't remember, like, distinct changes or things that shifted around that time. But I remember the first time me surrendering to asking for support, knowing that there was a higher power. I didn't need anyone to teach me that. I could feel it. I had to hit a rock bottom, you could say, in that point of my life of deep, deep pain and suffering to say, I'm ready for guidance. I'm ready for help, because whatever this is not it. This is not what it's supposed to feel like. This is not what this is about. And I remember that being like a very intense moment that I'll never forget. And then honestly, jumping from there, I don't really remember much else outside of now I'm a little bit older. And I believe, so I started going to church again. It was with I was willing to go. So here's the thing. I was always open. And so I ended up going to church again with an ex's, I think, we were dating at the time, and his aunt. And we ended up going to church and finding, it was called Village Church. If you guys are Surrey, Langley, Delta, anywhere, you might know that. And we started going there, and there were tons of things they were talking about that I could align with. That I was like, yes, yes, yes. Like so many biblical truths that I was like, yes, like this feels like truth. And then I kept going, and then like kind of fell out of it and would go sometimes. And then I just found it became political. Okay. And this is where I think it's really important to understand that God's source connection and spirituality is within you, because human beings are human beings and they're not perfect. And the things happening in the world can impact them and can impact their beliefs and can impact the way they show up. And so I just started to find certain ones I didn't relate to that would speak, certain things I didn't really like. I found it became like, especially through 2020, it became very political. I could feel the bias of like what side they were on. And I was like, this is not it. If that's all coming in, that doesn't feel like God or truth or connection to God. Like now your humanness and like this world is impacting, your delivery. And so I just kind of stepped away from it. But going a little bit back before 2020. Okay. So jump way back. I discovered the book. I remember this. This is like, that's the same church that I had kind of like gone to though over those years, in and out. And so I remember, I don't know how I stumbled across the book, The Universe Has Your Back by Gabby Bernstein. And that was the first time I started learning about meditation, mantras, prayer, that you could like meditate and manifest, and that like love versus fear, the concept of love versus fear, the concept of understanding like you have the power within you based on your thoughts, based on like the universe having your back, like whatever, all of these concepts about the universe and God and creator and all of that. That book was like so monumental in my journey. And so I started doing meditation daily. I started journaling, visualizing, doing exercises every morning. And I remember, you guys, writing down things like, I'm going to have a business one day. That I was doing this on the SkyTrain to my 9-to-5 that I hated. I would read this book and I took it so freaking seriously that I was like, this life that I'm living is not going to be my life. But like one day I'm going to have a successful business. I'm going to be able to be home with my kids. I'm going to have a family. So many things that I wrote down. I hope I can find that journal because I would love to share it with you. Some of the things that I wrote down. And I started understanding the power of like sitting in silence, meditating, visualizing what you wanted, and that you had the power to create it all through your visualizations. I was about 21. I feel like 21-ish when I was really in that phase, or whenever that book came out. That's when I remember reading it. And that was super powerful for me. And then basically I discovered Reiki through a friend at the gym who I met her. I don't know. She's like, just like one of those divine interventions, right? Where like you meet someone, they come into your life. It's very much on purpose. She introduced me to Reiki. She introduced me to crystals. She introduced me to energy healing. I didn't know about any of this stuff. Didn't know any of this stuff existed. Felt very like foreign. I remember coming in and be like, what? Like you can feel energy in your hands. You can create like energy balls. Like what? And seeing a lady I will never forget, she taught us the truth test with our body. And we had a like women's group. It was kind of like my first women's circle actually, which is so funny now thinking back at it. But she taught us how you can truth test your body, and how if you stand forward, you can say like, my name is Carly, and like your body will go forward if it's yes. And you could say like, my name is Joe, and your body goes back, and how much our body feels what truth is, like this. Like there's no denying the truth. And so it was teaching me that if you guys couldn't see me, like forward leaning meant yes, and you close your eyes, you stand up, and then like backward leaning meant no. And how you could utilize your body as a tool. And I had been in fitness and all of this stuff, but it was teaching me how to use my body in a different way. And I remember going to a Reiki appointment, and I remember like she had given me rose quartz crystals for love, and it like represents love. And I remember having those crystals and feeling like, okay, like I know love. I love everyone. Like I have boyfriends. I love them so much. Like I don't have an issue with love. And I remember going to my first Reiki appointment, and basically going into a trance for like over 2 hours, 2.5 hours. The lady was in there. It was supposed to be an hour-long appointment. She said I couldn't stop because whatever was blocked around your heart was so intense. Like she was crying, she was sobbing, she was like, oh, like the pain. And now that I understand so much more, but at the time I was so fresh to this, I was like, okay, like what did you even do? I feel like I fell asleep. And she had said like my heart was so blocked, so caged, so guarded from all the hurt I had gone through. Because I'll say this, like I feel like this is most people, but I was naive in the sense that I just like loved people. I had an open heart. I trusted everyone. And trusting and openly, that's like wounded feminine, by the way, because when you're in your wounded feminine, you don't yet understand that your heart is something you actually do have to protect, not in a blocking it away, guarding it like a freaking fortress, but in a way that you can see that like this person's not safe. So you're not actually going to get access to my heart because I need to keep my heart safe and I need to protect me. And this is something that I couldn't necessarily understand and see back then. And so anyways, I went to this appointment. She did Reiki with me. And I ended up leaving and being like, I don't know what that was, but that felt really good. Like I really like the way that feels. And I left that appointment and I feel like maybe within 6 months after that, I was pregnant. And so that Reiki appointment must have been when I was 23-ish, 24 max. And so I went to that appointment and within 6 months, I must have been 23. I went back and I was pregnant and she fell to the floor sobbing. And she went, this is exactly what you needed to teach you the true meaning of unconditional love. And I felt pregnant, you guys, not expected. Okay. Not married, out of wedlock. So feeling like horrible because I'm not married and I'm pregnant. So I felt like I had a teen pregnancy and I'm like, oh my God, what is happening to my picture perfect life? Like I'm supposed to be married first with the picture perfect family. And like now I'm pregnant and I'm not even married. Like I have a boyfriend and I'm pregnant. What the F? And so just to trust the timing of your life, like, no, it didn't happen exactly as I wanted to, but like I have my beautiful Jackson, who's like my angel who I can talk to about everything. Like he understands all of this stuff. He's 7 and he gets it. He's like, yeah, mom, the whole meaning that we're like, isn't it crazy that the whole reason we're here, like, we're just here to learn love. Like that's all we're doing here is figuring out love. Like he is so freaking smart and in tune with the world and the way that this place works. And it just blows my mind all the time. And it's like, yeah, I had the thought of abortion. Okay. Because when I felt pregnant, I knew I wasn't going to do it. But my, his husband at the time, I don't know what to say. I always get weird. Like, what do I call him? But anyways, his dad was like, you're going to keep it. Like he was horrified. He was like, this is going to ruin my life. Like think of the stories and the programs that we're brought up with around being pregnant out of wedlock, that it's like destructive and it's going to ruin your life. And it's like, babies are the biggest freaking blessing on planet Earth. I'm just like, that is so not true. And so anyways, I obviously kept him and I did not have an abortion and I wasn't going to do it. But the fact that it came up for him and it made me go like, wait, am I not supposed to have this baby? Like the thought was there for a second because again, conditioned so deeply to think that abortion is just normal and just an answer. Just, you just get pregnant, just abort the baby, which is a whole other freaking topic that is insane as women that we're so okay with. Because it's like, if you really think about it, you're creating life and we're that disconnected from ourselves. We think it's a good idea. Honestly, to me, I don't think you can be wildly in tune spiritually and believe that that is the right decision for you as a woman. Like, I'm just like, when you're wildly in tune with your body, like that is the most beautiful thing that you can do is create life. That's what you're here for. That's what your vessel is for. And it's like, if you have a baby in there, like, I'm just like, there's some deep healing that needs to happen for women to no longer celebrate killing babies. Okay. That's like deep shit. When that whole thing went on politically and it's like, how can you not support? I'm like, you guys, what has happened in our world that we have women screaming for the right to murder the life that they're creating? That's messed up on a really deep level. And I get it because I grew up in the same era where it was like, this is great. You have choice and you have freedom and like all of that. I understand that side. And it's like, this is crazy that we're fighting for that right though, because it's like, we know better. We have control now. Like we can be mindful of like, if we're getting pregnant or not. And so it's like, you can use birth control, you can use these things, which I don't recommend, just know when you're ovulating. But it's like there's so many other tools that, yeah. And then someone will come up with the argument about the rape thing and all that. And I'm just like, I've seen both sides where the rape victim's like, I'm a human being and you're telling me my life doesn't matter. Like there's just so much there. So we're not going to go into that. But spirituality is polarity. And like that could trigger you. Okay, look into it. If you feel weird about the abortion topic, look into it. Why? Do you feel guilt? Do you feel shame? Why do you feel so polarized and like angry about that topic? Like there's something going on there. That's your spiritual journey. Look at that. Go into it. Because for me personally, it was just very much not something that I was going to do. I was like, I'm a responsible adult who works, who's more than capable of taking care of a child. If I want to be irresponsible in how I have sex, that now I've fallen pregnant, that's not right for me to be like, oh, well, sorry, you don't get a life. Like, no, I was very much like, no, I'm going to have this baby. Okay. That was a whole tangent I didn't think I was going to go on, but apparently it was needed for someone or something because that's what came out of me. Anyways, so I got pregnant and I remember going to a Reiki appointment because I already had it booked. And I was like, yeah, I'm pregnant. She's like, oh my God. And she fell to the floor crying. And she basically said like, this is exactly what you needed to feel the true feeling of unconditional love. And this is going to heal your heart. Okay. And I truly believe motherhood, becoming a mom did in so many beautiful, amazing ways. And so that was like when I was 25. I'm now 32. I have a 7-year-old. Okay. So keep going from there. Gabby Bernstein's Universe Had Your Back. I was doing that all the time, but then I got pregnant. Then Daniel was living with me, and everything changed. Like I can say that this is my own thing, is that like I lose my routines when people are around. So not just him. I've realized if anyone's at my house, if anyone is staying with me, I have a really hard time staying in my own routine. So if I'm here alone, pretty much in the morning, like you can catch me journaling, or I might do yoga in the morning, or I might read a book, or like, there's all these different things that I'm going to do. At nighttime, I'm going to read, I'm going to journal, I'm going to do yoga or meditation or breath work or something like that. Okay. Like I have practices that I like to do. I'm really good at doing them on my own. When people are around me, I suck at staying in routine. Okay. So this is not his fault. It's like he moved in and I fell out of my morning habit of sitting in my like visualizations and meditations and like carving out space and time for that. Got pregnant, had babies, very, very much fell off the wagon of meditation, manifestation, and like tuning into myself. But at around 21-ish is when I started learning that stuff. Okay. Hopefully that's making sense. So then keep moving on. Discovered Gabby Bernstein. Like I said, I went to one of her events and I found that the end of my relationships typically were always the things that brought me to my knees in complete despair, surrender, and asking for God support, the universe, whoever, to guide me and help me. And I feel like when I was reflecting on this, I've had to end every relationship. Like I've had to walk away. And that is really hard over and over and over again. Like, yes, I know getting dumped and broken up with freaking sucks too, but having to be the one to hurt the person and say it sucks. And I wasn't good at it. And so a lot of the time I would try to break up with them, but it wasn't clear enough. And so there'd still be this lingering of like them thinking we were maybe together, but we weren't. And so it's like, even though I felt like I had told you, like, I don't want to be with you, they'd be like, no, but let me just teach you and let me just try to do this. And let me, like, I promise I'll change and I'll do this. And then it's like, I didn't know what to do. And so I would sit in this like weird place of like, my voice isn't being heard. I'm trying to tell you what I want. You're not listening. I don't want to be with you. But then when they would fight me on it, I would kind of go mute and like, okay, like, I guess I don't know. I guess I don't know what's best for me. And so I'm just going to sit in this limbo land, but I would fully check out. Okay. So I don't know why I'm going here either, but I would fully check out of my relationships because I knew they were over, but the other person would still think there was a chance. So I would fully check out. I would say that I'm not interested. I would say, okay, whatever, you can try to change, but I'm not here for this. And then it's like I'm a cheater, but I wasn't cheating. I was already done. And I had told you I was done for months and you didn't listen to me. And so I don't know what that pattern is about. Like clearly I need to get way better at like defined and clear communication when I mean it, rather than like letting someone linger on thinking that it's going to soften the blow. I don't know, but like Anyway, so that's my own issue, is that I haven't been 100% clear because I feel bad for people, but then I've already checked out and then I'm like called a cheater, but I'm like, no, we broke up in November. And like, yeah, I moved on because I probably should have told you I was done a year ago, but I stayed and I've been done. And so, yeah, I move on real quick, which is also a thing that I used to do. And I don't know why I'm talking about this on my spiritual journey, but I think it's important because like relationships are spiritual and you learn a lot and you understand patterns and like parts of you. And so when those relationships ended, where was I going with that? Oh yeah, I would move on really quickly. And it's because I truly believe at a soul level, you guys, I'm meant to navigate relationships in this lifetime. And so when one would end and I'd be like, okay, well, that's not it. So like, we got to get into the next one. I'm like, we got to get into the next one and figure out that one and figure out that one and figure out that one. And like, who is this person supposed to be with? Because I can feel it on a soul level. I'm meant to be with this like person and cultivate this relationship. I've talked about this before. I can feel it as part of my like main soul purposes. I've known it since I was a kid, not out of like a, oh my God, I just need a man and I want a man. Even though when I'm ovulating, sometimes I'm like, please, I just need a man. I need male energy around me. But like, not like that. It's like, I've known I'm meant to be married, create this relationship, do this thing. I just didn't know myself as well in the previous ones. And so every previous relationship, in my opinion, was here to teach me a lesson, to help me understand me, to get to know myself better, which is all valuable and spiritual, you guys. Life is spiritual. Every experience is spiritual. You're on a soul path, soul journey in earth school, learning what you need to learn about yourself and your life. And every single experience is here to be a teacher or for you to be a teacher for that person. Every single experience is intentional, I feel, and divinely placed. Okay? You can get off track a little, but I feel like you always get course corrected at some point. I actually saw a, I guess you could call her like a psychic, maybe. I don't know what you call her, like energy worker, healer. And she had told me, she said, oh, you were never supposed to like be with Daniel. Like it kind of set back your life of where you were going. Cause she's like, you guys were soulmates in past lives, but you weren't actually supposed to like get married this time, but you did. And so it's fine. She's like, but it set you back like a 7-year cycle from where you would have been had you not done that, but it doesn't matter. It's like, okay, you did that, you figured it out, and now here we are, we're course corrected to where you should be. And it's kind of crazy. I have full chills when I say that, because not that it wasn't supposed to happen, okay? Because like obviously my babies came, he came, we had an amazing experience together. Honestly, like our marriage was pretty great until the end. Good friends, get along, all that, okay? Not that. But who I was becoming when I was meditating, journaling, writing, and tapping into me before this 2 babies and marriage came, I'm back to her. So like in terms of timelines, everything is happening simultaneously, but like that hiccup took me out of where I was at 21 versus who I had to come back to at 31. Does this make sense? So it's like, it's so cool to think about how, even though, let's say maybe on your soul's path that wasn't necessarily intentionally meant for you, but you like kind of did that again because you like fell into your old patterns. It's like, okay, whatever, it is what it is, but you're always going to course correct to where you are meant to go if you keep choosing to follow the hard parts of your journey. And so for me, choosing to end a marriage, you guys, was horrendous. It felt horrible. Like the agony and shit that I went through in those years was terrible for what I went through internally in that season. It was really freaking hard, really freaking challenging. Like one of the hardest seasons of my life. And so the beauty of that though is like, had I not fallen into that, I don't know if I would have, like it was the catalyst to get me back on my spiritual path, back into connection with myself, back into alignment with where my life is supposed to go. So you have to see like even the hardest things sometimes are like there to course correct, to bring you back to your path, to teach you a lesson that you needed to learn in order to become the person you were meant to become. So, okay. So anyways, ending relationships is really freaking hard. Went to Reiki, stepped away from it. I call it my quarter life crisis when I knew that I needed out of my career. And I feel like that was spiritual too. So like when I decided like, okay, I know I'm not meant to work here forever. Like this is not my calling. This is not my soul path. Again, choosing to let people down. I have a really hard time letting people down. And so in that, I was so afraid, you guys. I remember being terrified to tell my boss at the time that I was pregnant. Because I was like, he just hired me onto this new role and like, I just got here and now I'm going to be leaving and like, oh my gosh, like, what are they going to think of me? And I'm going to feel like a failure and all this stuff. Like I had so many thoughts about that. And so when I left, like I had such a hard time communicating that. this is the lesson in it all. I'm realizing it right now. Communicating my own freaking needs. Don't know how to do it. Didn't know how to do it. I'm way better now, but like didn't know how to do it. So all these relationships where I needed to end them because shit sucked and I was done with it, couldn't communicate my needs. Before it sucked, couldn't communicate what I actually needed. In the jobs, hated it, didn't want to be there, couldn't say, hey, you know what? This isn't for me. I'm out. Terrified of disappointing other people because I was a people pleaser and I was so worried about hurting other people's feelings or letting people down that I couldn't say what I actually needed and didn't know how to choose myself. Okay. So the deep spiritual meaning when I went through the divorce, it was the first time in my life that I decided to choose me. That shit is deep. Okay. And if you really start to understand that like in letting everyone else down, I had to feel like I was letting my kids down, my parents down, society down, everyone on Instagram down, my husband down, his family down, everybody down. But in letting everybody down, I chose me. That's really, it actually, yeah. Ooh. That's another thing. I never used to let myself cry and I would stop it, but it's just emotion moving through you. It's just energy moving through you. And like, that's powerful when you've lived your whole life, choosing everybody else outside yourself to get to that moment where you actually choose you is liberating and soul crushing all at the same time. I just have to grab this pen because you have to let everyone else down and it sucks to hurt other people. But in choosing that and moving through that, it was the first time in my life I chose me fully and what I knew my soul needed. That was really, really hard, but spiritual. Do you see how every single thing that you go through is actually part of your spiritual path and like leading you and guiding you to become who you're meant to be? So, yeah. So leaving my job, letting people down, all of that. And when I started feeling that like something was off with my marriage, we were kind of going to church at the time, hadn't really jumped back into my spiritual practices yet. But the catalyst of this all was knowing something was off in my marriage, and it led me back to my spiritual practices on a really deep level. And this is something I haven't done a podcast on, but I'm starting to feel called to do it. To talk about how like my heart, you guys, and people will say like, you shouldn't let your heart and your feelings like be your guide and whatever. My heart was so pulled to somebody else that I couldn't explain it. And it was so hard for me because it was like, what is happening? I'm the girl who's in control. I'm the one who's always been cheated on. I'm the one who's always had this happen to me. Like, I can't be the one that like steps out of a marriage or like, why am I even feeling this way? Why am I being pulled toward this? What the hell is happening? And it was the most intense experience of my life because I couldn't control what I was feeling. And I was like, I've lived in control for so long. And now my heart, because when you tap into your heart, you can't control your life with your mind anymore. Your heart is going to lead you because that's your soul. It's going to lead you to where you're actually meant to be. And I had to break every single belief, construct, societal thing that I had ever thought mattered in stepping into that. And I remember trying to avoid it, trying to understand what the hell it was, what was going on. And so I built a friendship with this guy because I was like, what the hell is this? Like, am I supposed to help him in some way? Is he supposed to be in my business? Am I supposed to help his girlfriend? Like, somehow this person is fallen into my life. I'm going to tell this story. I'm not going to share every detail here because I do believe it's like a really, like there's going to be lots of strong opinions. So I almost want to make it its own episode. But it was so divinely orchestrated, you guys. You can't make this shit up. Like the house that I ended up choosing, the exact location that I ended up picking, which was not near any of my friends. And everyone's like, why did you choose Oceanside? And I was like, I don't know. I like found a house and it showed up and it was a good price. And so I just landed there. And it was because I had started F45 a week before. And this is where I met him. And it was like, it was so crazy the way everything linked that even though it's negative in the sense that it impacted my marriage, it was so necessary for me to feel these things to bring myself back to where the F I am supposed to be. And it was another catalyst. Was it challenging? Was it hard? Was it so intense and something that like I never thought I would go through? Yeah. Obviously, when you're married, you don't expect your heart to all of a sudden be pulling you to somebody else. That's a lot to handle. Okay. And I avoided it and I tried to deny it and I tried to make it like it was nothing and have it be nothing, but it wasn't nothing. And it wasn't until like I completely cut that off, even the friendship, because I was like, I can't have this relationship and then also manage my marriage. And so it's like, I went through all of that season, then through all of 22, ignoring it, until it was like, whoa, you need to listen to your heart. Like your heart's trying to tell you something. And so for me, I just had to be like, if my heart is pulling me to another human being, how in my marriage am I really? Like this is happening again, where it's like, I've been done and I didn't have the guts to say it. So the same pattern again. Okay. Because it's what happens to me. Anyways, in that season, I jumped back into my spiritual path, obviously went through that, went to more Reiki sessions, started working with a body worker because I was like, what the F is happening? So we came home from California and I dove heavy into body work with, her name is Samantha. I think her thing is like Journey of Healings or something on Instagram. I can link it for you guys. She's on the island now, but I would go to her once a week to do like energy work, to do somatic release, and try to figure out what the hell was happening because I was in my life is supposed to be perfect. I have a great job. I have the perfect family. I have the perfect house. I have the perfect marriage, not perfect house, but you know what I mean? Like everything looks perfect. I'm doing everything society said. I have everything going right. What is happening? Why does it feel like this is all falling apart? And how is this falling apart? Because you're supposed to be married forever. So what the hell is happening? And how can this even be a separation that is starting to happen? Like what is happening? Okay. And so I started working with her, hoping that the feelings that I was having would go away, hoping that it was just a me thing. It was just a season. It wasn't real. All of it could just be ignored and it could all go away. And that didn't happen. And I started to understand and learn about like past lives and who I had been and the hurts that I had and the hurts I was holding and things that have happened to me in my life that I never really looked at. Understanding that I was holding sexual abuse trauma, understanding all this stuff. And that really activated a whole new part of me in understanding that level of spirituality. And so continued doing like Reiki work. I actually went and got certified in Reiki to understand it better. Did all of that, stumbled across, I wonder if there's any other notes that I want to say first. Reiki, body talk, Reiki course. Yeah. Okay. And then I stumbled across Danny. Okay. So like this is now 2022, end of 2022. I know I need to end my marriage, but I'm hoping for a different result. And don't want to face it, don't want to hurt anyone, don't want to let my kids down, don't want to destroy their lives because I was literally afraid I was going to destroy their lives because of what everyone makes you feel about divorce and it's so horrendous. But ultimately it's like, it's actually the relationship between the two parents that makes things horrendous or not horrendous. It's your dynamic. Are you guys healthy? Can you get along? Do you treat each other with respect? Regardless, if you're married, not married, it doesn't matter whether the marriage is there. How do you treat each other? Are you guys still involved with your kids' lives? And in being outside of the marriage, we treat each other better. We have more respect. We actually get along better. We're both still very much involved. Do my kids wish their dad was around a little bit more? Yeah. And so we've started doing that where he comes over more nights a week to hang out with them. And so it's like, it wasn't that I was married or not married. It's like, do they both have their mom and dad? Do they feel that they have both of you there, that you respect each other, that you can support each other, that you're kind to each other, that they don't feel like they're being thrown in the middle? And obviously I have another episode about co-parenting if you want to listen to that. But anyways, it's like divorce isn't actually the bad thing. Some relationships are meant to end and it's actually for all of your highest good to go through that. And it's like, it's not necessarily bad. It's when those divorces are really horrendous and awful and put the kids in the middle. That's when it has like a negative result. Okay. Anyways, so going through that, I remember laying in bed one night and Danny somehow popped up, his event Awaken. And I was like, I don't know what this is, but I need to go. I bought the tickets right then and there. And I was like, I am going to this event. And so I remember being like, I don't know if my husband's going to end up coming with me. I don't know if I'm meant to go alone. Like, I don't know if a friend will come with me. And by the time that it came, it was like, I need to do this alone. Like, I just need to go. And I was going to invite my husband because I was like, I should want to bring him. I should want to try to do this together. And I just didn't. I was like, I just need to go for me. And so I did. And that event is what introduced me to breath work, to a deeper level of understanding around myself. And I dived really deep into that community, did it like 3 times. Ended up doing plant medicine later that year because I joined his inner circle program, did psilocybin for the first time in October of 2023. So me and Daniel split officially, like he was moved out in April of 2023. So what is that? Like almost 6 months later, was sitting with mushrooms, psilocybin in Costa Rica, which was the most beautiful, amazing experience of my life. You can go back to some of the first few episodes of this podcast, actually. That's similar time to when I started it, because I had no fear around just like sharing myself and my voice anymore through doing all of this work. And so I didn't care. I was like, I don't care what people think. Like my life is my life, and I don't care if I have judgment. It doesn't matter to me. Like I am who I am, and that's, And so anyways, sat with psilocybin in October of 2023, and then sat with psilocybin a few other times the following year in 2024. And then also ayahuasca just recently in November of 2024. And so in terms of my spiritual journey, I feel like those are the biggest monumental pieces of it when it comes to like spiritual work, was diving into like Reiki, understanding energy healing, understanding your chakras, understanding that like weird energy body, understanding all of that. And then also like the physical, like understanding of spirituality, starting to understand God and source and universe. And like I have my own understanding of it now. And honestly, I feel like you have such a clear understanding when you sit with plant medicine that it's not what they're trying to teach you what it is in religion, for example, like with words, but it's a felt thing. Words can't really describe God's presence or like your spirit guides or guidance at all. Like that's not spiritual. So we try to explain it with words, but I feel like it's an experience that is felt. And when you feel that experience, that's how you grow that connection. And so if you're very much in your mind, in your masculine, where you're trying to understand, you're trying to know, and you're trying to know, I just feel like you can try to read books and you can try to understand it that way, but the real experience is felt. And so for me, I had a decent relationship, but like now that I've sat with plant medicine and stuff, it's like I can go to that connection whenever I need it and like ask for guidance and support. And I feel it through breath work and through Reiki. I honestly haven't sat and done Reiki in a long time. I feel like that was still when I was feeling like I needed someone outside of me to help me. And yes, there could be a time where I'm like, oh yeah, I could use a little energy clearing and like go to somebody, but I haven't felt I needed it. And I still will like, I'm going to awaken again next week. And I'm going to sit with breath work. And like, sometimes I don't feel like I need it. And other times I do. And I think that's the beauty of understanding these things, is like, there's going to be days where we live very much in the day. And then there's going to be days where you're like feeling challenged and like you need to pull on these practices. And that's the beauty of having them, is when you need it. Like even already I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I'll ever feel called to do ayahuasca again. And I think I'm being called to sit again already, for knowledge she wants to give me, not so much out of like a healing capacity, but more like, okay, you're ready for more knowledge and I want to share more with you. And so eventually I'll go and sit with ayahuasca again. Yeah. So I'm just trying to think if there's anything else to say. Yeah. Psilocybin, breath work. Yeah. I started facilitating like women's circles and helping hold space for them to be able to find this connection to themselves, because I think our lives are so busy. We don't understand how much this is the most beneficial thing you can do. Like when I was really hardwired for success and achievement and like doing, I was like, but I don't understand. What's the point of meditation? I don't have time to sit and meditate. I don't have time to not do anything. Like I have so much to get done. And now I understand that it's like doing that allows you the space to deeply connect with yourself, where you then know what actions to take. You can take more aligned actions, more intentional actions. You can feel the essence of yourself and your body and have calmness and like nervous system regulation. Like I have learned all of that. I understand what presence in myself feels. I understand what love in myself feels like versus love from others and what I thought love was. And it's so clear to me now when other people, let's say, especially in the dating world, right? You can feel it where they're trying to take your energy. There's no reciprocity. There's no giving. It's like, you can feel it when it's not love. And I think until I got to this point, like I didn't really understand what it felt like to love myself. So of course I attracted partners that I never fully felt loved in or seen in. And then as I started to go on this journey of like learning to love myself, now I know what love feels like. So I attract love in so many ways, like through friendships, through relationships, through all types of things. Like there's so much love in my life despite partnership, like a romantic partnership, I could say, where I had to get to that point to understand that. And so to me, that's also spiritual. That's part of the journey. Like learning all of that is part of the journey. And yeah, is there anything else I wanted to say on that? Yeah, like the crystals, pendulum, sage, clearing as a clearing tool, using your energy body, all of that came. Crystals to me, I don't have a big relationship with where I feel like I need crystals and need them all around. I don't feel like that. Pendulums I use sometimes as a tool when I'm feeling really, really conflicted. It's just another body energy tool. Like it senses your energy of truth. If you're feeling really like fuzzled in your brain, whatever. Yeah. And that's pretty much it. So, and when it comes to my spiritual journey, I would say reading books like The Universe Has Your Back, Gabby Bernstein's books were amazing for me. Going to events where there was space held for me. I've gone to women's events and women's circles, full moon circles, whatever. All of those things are just there to hold space. So those practices, you don't necessarily need to sit with women. Some of you do, like you will benefit from being in a gathering with other women because you don't know how to do this yet on your own. And there's beauty in being seen by others, seen and witnessed by others. For me, obviously having a platform like this, like even at Danny's events, like there's stuff I could share, but sometimes I feel like there's other people who need to feel seen and heard in those circumstances versus myself where I'm like, I come here as an outlet. And so I do feel like I'm, get to share my experiences somewhere. And so, yeah, like the breath work is transformational. Like if you're not ready to sit with plant medicine, you have fear around that. I would just say all your fear and the reason you even have fear in your life melts away when you sit with plant medicine. So it's almost like, it's so funny when people are like, I'm just afraid of it. I'm like, you need it the most because if you would just sit with it, you'd realize you have there's so much beauty. Like you don't need your brain so hyperactive anymore. Like if you have a hyperactive brain, you need plant medicine to get you out of that space because that shit is crazy. And I'm like, I so believe at this point too, where I'm like, if you're a wild, like, and your brain is like that, you're going to have cancer. Like that's just what I have found to be true. So it's like, unless you want to end up with disease and like, sorry, I shouldn't make such a bold claim, but like literally you manifest physical disease in your body when your mind is that hyperactive because you're never actually in tune with your body. So if your mind is always going, you're never connected to your body, the source of everything. And so physical disease will manifest. I can guarantee you that. And typically the people that I see often, getting diagnosed with cancer, at least in my life personally, recently, like certain issues, they're so worried. They're riddled with fear. There's constant worry. And you can't tell when you just talk to someone, but when they start to speak, you can feel it. You can feel their energy body. When you get in tune, it's like, whoa, like I need a barrier from like that, what is happening. And it's like, that's the crazy energy that's happening in you. And it's literally causing dis-ease and disruption to the cells in your body. And so that's where understanding to come into like presence and calmness and nervous system regulation and peace and groundedness and centeredness in you helps combat physical disease. You're so much less likely to have that. And you start to have a deep respect for your body. And so something that I want to say that's also spiritual is caring for your body. So I really feel like your spiritual journey partially is like understanding how to create abundance for yourself and understand your abundant being in this planet. Understanding how to care and nurture and love for your body, which is your vessel to experience this life. And then relationships allow you to go to the deepest, darkest places that you don't want to go, where you don't feel love, where you don't feel, where you have been scared of connection. And relationships are built and meant to help you access that part of you. And then every single relationship you get to choose, is it going to be different? Are you going to go there? Are you going to keep blaming the other person? You're going to realize the role you're playing. And so I really feel like, yeah, your money, your spirituality, your health, your relationships, like all of it is spiritual, you guys. All of those things are spiritual. And your entire journey is it's your spiritual experience in a physical world, basically. You're having a physical experience, but a spiritual journey. I don't know how to word that. I've heard it before too, but it's like, that's what's happening here. And so when you just surrender to that and you see that like every experience is meant to be here for your growth, even the hard stuff becomes beautiful because you understand that it's really all here for your highest good. So with that, I hope that answered some of the stuff. I think it's just like diving into you, connecting to you anytime you can connect to yourself. And I'll say this, like now when I do breath work or yoga, you guys, I can lay on the ground and like my body just moves itself. It knows how to move the energy because I've given it the space to. And so my body does weird shit when I lay down. Like if I get myself into that space with even without plant medicine, like it will, like my arms start going like a butterfly and like it starts moving and then I'll shake and like different stuff happens and it's just energy moving out of my body because our body will hold it. You have to think that your body's like a sponge. And so anything that you're not processing and moving through, you hold. And my body was holding a lot. We all are. Like even in ayahuasca, my ayahuasca ceremony, after all of this stuff that I've worked on and all this healing that I think I've done, it was like, girl, we're going to go back to when you were like 6 and 5 and 7 in experiences where you didn't know how to process the energy of what was happening around you. And so you held it and you absorbed it and you've been holding it since then. And it's time to let it go. So little things like that you don't even realize. And then you tap in and there's so much to let go of. And I feel like I've been in the art of detachment and letting go. Detachment and letting go, and really being led to trust, have faith, and surrender on a whole new level. I think like what you're still in control and living through fear when you have all the answers. And I think the real test when you actually start to feel true faith, true surrender, true connection to God is when you don't know how things are going to go. You don't have all the answers, but you can trust in the unknown because you know you're being led by a higher power that's for your highest good. So I feel like that's my season right now. I've been feeling a little off. This is like the same week that I posted that story. Like I felt so off that week. And I think a lot of that truly is coming from a place of, I feel like I'm up against big decisions again. And every time I have big decisions that carry weight, it's spiritual. Like it's a big choice and decision that I need to make. And it's like, it's me carving out the time to tune into me and then trusting in the unknown and the in-between that like I'm going to be taken care of and everything's going to work out. So, yeah, anyways, I hope that was helpful. That's kind of my spiritual journey at a really high level. And of course, any questions, things that you're wondering, please ask. But you just trust yourself and going on yours. Like dive into this work. If you don't understand the church or God or any of that, like maybe it's, I forgot to mention, you guys, I did Bible study with Jehovah Witness, I don't know what to say, like a Jehovah Witness Bible study because I was just open to it. I was like, whatever. Yeah, I'm open to all of it. And like that again was like, by the end, I was like, no, this is not it. So yeah, I just think, yeah, you need to go on your journey. And so it could look like religion for you. It could look like, going deep into spiritual woo-woo stuff and realizing, even like falling into like witchcraft type practices and then realizing like, wait, that's not fully what it is either. Working with dark energy and dark entities to realize like, wait, that's not the light, even though it gives you power. Like there's so much, and just trusting like none of it is scary. Just go embark on your own journey. And it could look different from somebody else. Like you may be someone who grew up in the church and needs to step away from the church. You could be someone who has found your way back to the church. You could be someone who's really religiously indoctrinated and you don't even realize it. And like you don't actually have a true sense of God and spirituality within you. So there's like so much, but I think ultimately it's coming to, do you feel you know God within you and that connection within you? Yeah. And when you feel that, I don't think it has to be so plastered. You know what I'm saying? There's certain places and feelings where it's like very much in your face and in a destructive sense, where I don't think that that's God either. It's your ego. So when you have true sense of like God and spirituality, like your ego's not inflamed. It's like a place of true soul connection, surrender, and heart. Yeah. Okay. I feel like that's great. That was really long. That's 1 hour. Yeah, I'm just trying to think if there's anything else I want to say on that. Just go on your journey. Stop being afraid of everything. Like do the breath work, do the Reiki, do the body talk, do the healing, go to talk therapy if you have to. Like go through your experiences to find the thing that helps you connect the most to you. And eventually you get to a place where you don't need as much external support. But in a certain season, you may need it. And even right now, I'm so excited to go do breathwork and see what shows up for me, because I feel like it's spiritual hygiene. It's like you go do these things to have hygienic cleanses to keep you and your vessel clean. So read books. I have other books I can tell you. The Universe Has Your Back, Spirit Hacking is really great. Books like the book called Signs. There's, I should get a list of them. Earth. Ooh, if you want some deep ones, like Earth and Bringers of the Dawn, like books like that. If you're like into that, they're really good. Yeah, I have lots of different books. I'm reading like the Essene Gospel of Peace. It's more about Jesus. The Mystic Jesus is good. I'm reading it. Yeah, to understand just different pieces. So just understand that, like, if you have been avoiding your connection to God, source, universe because of what religion made you feel, tune back into that, because not everything in religion is pure and God at all. Like, there's a lot of darkness there that's been overtaken for power. So, Okay, well, that's that. Thank you so much for listening. I'm going to ask you, if you were on here, wherever you're watching, please subscribe, share it with someone that you think it could benefit. Just thank you so much for being here. Thank you for listening to the podcast. Thank you for sharing your time with me and choosing to share your time with me. Spiritual concepts, I feel like I could definitely dive deeper into in different places, but like that's the really high level of my personal journey and what it has looked like for me in this season. And I hope that was helpful. I went on some tangents I did not expect to go on. So bye, you guys. Have the best day wherever you're listening, wherever you're watching. And again, please like, subscribe, share if there's anyone that you want to share this with, because it really, really helps it reach the people that it's meant to reach. And I appreciate you guys so much for always listening, sharing, and being here and sharing your time with me. Bye.